Hear me in the back? Okay, cool. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. بسم الله الصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وصحبه ومن والاه. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. Assalamu Alaikum wa rahmatullah. Jazakallah everybody for coming inside this tent. I know it's probably like really hot and like really crowded in here, but Jazakallah for being patient. The weather wasn't exactly what we expected, but Jazakallah for being here. And also welcome to the third day of IAW Islamic Awareness Week. If you guys do not know if you guys aren't familiar with Islamic Awareness Week is our annual event, week-long event that we have here in New Brunswick to show the Rutgers community what the Muslim Ummah is about. So we have activities all throughout the day, and then at the night we end off with our talk by our local Shaykh. And so this year's theme was about the soul's journey, similar to we had like a subway theme, so similar to that, right? Each stop, we talk about each stop each day. So today, inshallah, we'll be talking about being an obedient servant while being tested by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And before we get things off, inshallah, I'll invite Brother Raid Sayyid to start off with some Quran.
Assalamu Alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. لله ما في السماوات وما في الأرض وإن تبدوا ما في أنفسكم أو تخفوه يحاسبكم به الله فيغفر لمن يشاء ويعذب من يشاء والله على كل شيء قدير. آمن الرسول بما أنزل إليه من ربه والمؤمنون كل آمن بالله وملائكته وكتبه ورسله لا نفرق بين أحد من رسله وقالوا سمعنا وأطعنا غفرانك ربنا وإليك المصير. لا يكلف الله نفسا إلا وسعها لها ما كسبت وعليها ما اكتسبت ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا أو أخطأنا ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين. صدق الله العظيم. And I will follow with the translation, inshallah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. To Allah belongs all that is in the heavens and on the earth. Whether you disclose what it is in your minds or conceal it, Allah will call you to account for it. He forgives whomever He wills and punishes whomever He wills. For Allah has power over all things. The Messenger ﷺ believes in what has been revealed to him from his Lord, as do the believers. Each of them believes in Allah, His angels, His books, and His messengers. We make no distinction between one and another of His messengers. And they say, we hear and we obey. Grant us your forgiveness, our Lord, and to you is the return of all. Allah does not place on any soul a burden greater than it can bear, for it is what it has earned, and against it is what it has committed. Our Lord, do not hold us accountable if we forget or fall into error. Our Lord, do not lay on us a burden like that, which you laid on those who came before us. Our Lord, do not lay on us a burden greater than we have strength to bear. Pardon us, forgive us, and have mercy on us. You are our protector, so help us against the disbelieving people. Jazakallah.
Takbir. Allahu Akbar. Takbir. Allahu Akbar. Takbir. Allahu Akbar.
Jazakallah, Brother Raid, for the beautiful recitation and translation of the end of Surah Baqarah. Next, I'd like to invite Brother Ibrahim to give a little bit of information about prophetic living and their events.
Assalamu Alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Barakallahu feekum for hosting us. This is our second college talk at Prophetic Living. For those of you who aren't very familiar with Prophetic Living is a foundation that is built on a very simple precedent, inshallah. So at Prophetic Living, our focus is to develop people, cultivate companionship, and build prophetic communities. So when we think about living here in the West, when we think about living in America, Canada, wherever, we are filled with a lot of the wrong things. We find ourselves filled with a lot of different isms and movements and feelings and emotions. But really at Prophetic Living, what we strive to do is to strip away all of that and just live on La ilaha illallah, Muhammadun Rasulullah, the prophetic path, prophetic living. Very, very straightforward, very, very straightforward mission, inshallah. So you'll notice that we have a lot of events. If you follow us on Instagram, you'll see all of the events. Our most recent event, our most upcoming event will be our Prophetic Living launch. That'll be happening up in Teaneck at the Marriott. We have Imam Umar Sulaiman, Dr. Yasir Fahmy, Dr. Shadi al-Masri, and Dr. Zaid Shakir, among many others. Inshallah, it'll be a full night's program, Friday night, May 26th. That'll be posted on the chats. We'll also have an intake form on the chats for those of you looking to learn more about the events, to get on the email list, to join our classes, to join our Thursday night dhikr and fikr sessions. We have our Umrah planned, inshallah, for December. So we have a lot going on. And as for the Prophetic Living launch, we already sold 80% capacity. So if you're interested and you'd like to see these speakers and you'd like to see them on a round table, talking about the Western movements, it's going to be really, really nice to see all that happening. Really exciting. So feel free to register, inshallah. And with that, I'll give you back the mic.
Jazakallah, brother. Inshallah, make sure you guys follow Prophetic Living on Instagram so you can get more updates following the class, inshallah, as well. Now we'll move on to the talk, inshallah. Besides me we're in the honor of Shaykh Yasir Fahmy, who is a Rutgers alumni. He studied finance in the business school here at Rutgers Newark. And then after working for a few years, he moved to Egypt to study in Al-Azhar University, where he attained multiple ijazas and studied under many notable teachers, including Shaykh Ahmed Taha Rayan, may Allah have mercy on him. And then after that, Shaykh Yasir was actually the first American to teach at Al-Azhar University. And right now he's the current founder of Prophetic Living. So without further ado, inshallah, Shaykh Yasir.
Assalamu Alaikum. How's everyone doing? This is pretty cozy, mashallah. I was told that you guys generally meet outside, but it's alhamdulillah, it's nice and intimate. Bismillah wa alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. Eid Mubarak, first and foremost. It's a few days late, but alhamdulillah. How was your Eid? Alhamdulillah. How was your Ramadan, more importantly? On a scale of 1 to 10, how was this Ramadan compared to other Ramadans? 10? Huh? 11, Allahu Akbar. We have an 11. Anyone else want to go higher or lower? 8? I heard an 8. I mean, mashallah, I will tell you that there was something very special about this Ramadan. Something that really came out of left field. I traveled a lot this month, much more than I think I've ever traveled in Ramadan. I went as far south as Houston, Texas, and as far north as Toronto, Canada, and everything in between. And I can't tell you how overwhelmingly inspiring this month of Ramadan has been. the sheer volume of Muslimin clamoring to be in the house of Allah was breathtaking. And there's no real identifiable reason why this is the case. Because the whole narrative and discourse around the Muslim community is that we've been off our game. And, Muslims have been tantalized by all sorts of, just status quo ways of living. But then suddenly this deluge of Muslims, and not just, by Muslims, I mean of all age groups. The night of the 25th, I gave a talk in Canada. At 1:30 a.m., there were almost around 2,000 youth, young people, college, people your age, a little older, almost 2,000, right, at 1:30 in the morning. And every masjid that I went to thereafter, before, and so on and so forth, was packed with young people. And I think that this is something that we need to spend some time reflecting on. Furthermore, the sheer volume of people who came into Islam this month of Ramadan was unreal. Every sheikh that I know across the country will tell you the same thing. Almost a shahada every night. At times 2 or 3 a night. Some masajid had upwards of 100 shahadas throughout the entire month of Ramadan. Just one masjid. This masjid says 50, 60, 70, 80. And then every other MMA fighter is becoming a Muslim. I don't know what's going on. Like basketball players, MMA guys. I know one guy who's in the entertainment industry, who's like kind of a brand ambassador manager for rappers and sports players, and he was telling me that the amount of people who are interested in Islam is truly remarkable. And I think just as Muslims, we have to pause and reflect upon this sign, because this is a sign from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not as if people are clamoring to come to Islam or be reinvested in Islam because of us. We haven't been doing our job. We've just been, selfish little old Muslims who, are self-absorbed and trying to figure out ourselves, our feelings, our wants, our desires, our futures, our careers, all this kind of, very self-centered narratives. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will always protect His cause. And the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the cause of existence. It's the purpose. It is the central North Star of every single believer. The purpose on this existence is to serve Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The brother who recited, may Allah bless him. What was your name again? Ra'id? I noticed you had a cat also on your, that's your indication. This is sweetheart. This guy's sweetheart. You got a cat as your background. I mean, I'm a cat guy, by the way. I'm not pulling shots. I like cats as well. I'm just putting it out there. Just everyone should know. But he recited the verses of Surah Al-Baqarah, correct? The last, right? And subhanAllah, the Prophet ﷺ said that if there are 2 verses of the Quran that are recited, لَكَفَتَاهُ, there are verses to be recited and that will suffice you. They are the last verses of Surah Al-Baqarah. Nestled inside the middle of those verses is what I would call the anthem of Islam and the anthem of the Muslimin. Anyone know what the anthem is? قالوا سمعنا وأطعنا غفرانك ربنا وإليك المصير. The best beings to ever walk on this earth, those who had identifiably the greatest purpose existentially. Like when you think about a person who lives, today in our modern discourse, we always talk about the impact that we're going to have, the legacies, the purpose, like what's the career that will give me the greatest bang for my buck, the greatest notoriety as long as the greatest wealth, because we have this idea of largesse, of the person that I can be and the way I can impact. Well, when you actually scale it back and look at the best of the best who have ever walked on this earth, they walked on the same earth that we walk on. We're not living 2 different realities. No. It just looks like the accidental qualities of our time look different than the accidental qualities of their time, but it's the same existence with the same general principles, the same general laws, the same human beings with the same motivations, the same emotions, the same intellect, etc. The greatest people to ever have walked on earth, this was their anthem. قالوا آمن الرسول بما أنزل إليه من ربه كل آمن بالله وملائكته وكتبه ورسله لا نفرق بين أحد من رسله وقالوا سمعنا وأطعنا. Their anthem was, Ya Rabbi, we hear you. وَأَطَعْنَا, and we obey you. غُفْرَانَكَ رَبَّنَا, we seek your forgiveness, Ya Rabbi. وَإِلَيْكَ الْمَصِيرُ, and certainly we will all return to you. The believer is someone who exists within a philosophical orientation, acknowledging full well that to Allah we belong and to Allah we shall return. And we never lose sight of that. Because you have to understand something, especially as young people. Ad-dunya khadda'a. Imam Ali, may Allah be pleased with him, says, the dunya is deceptive. It's very deceitful. It makes you think something about yourself, about the potential of yourself, about what you could have in it, in terms of the trappings, as philosophers call the trappings of excellence, the wealth, the power, the influence, the prestige, the family. And it deceives you. It makes you think that it's everlasting, that it's something that is to be pursued, something that you should think about, in this long-term discourse. But in reality, at a moment's notice, it's all over. I don't know if you guys heard of the passing of Sidi Mu'adh al-Nas, rahmatullahi alayh. His father, Shaykh Samir al-Nas, one of the great scholars of our time in Quran and Hadith studies and others. And Sidi Mu'adh, it was very simple. This is a young man who was born in 1988. So he was in his early 30s. He walked in, last 10 nights came in. He has 2 young, beautiful children. Last 10 nights come. He walks in to his home. He starts to have a piercing headache. Every day the headache gets a little worse. 2-3 days he can't handle it. They take him to the emergency room because of how bad the headache was. Within a couple of days, as I understand, they had to induce a coma, just so that he can function. They realized that he had a tumor. Within 2 days he was dead. Subhanallah, rahmatullahi alayhi, may Allah have mercy upon him. But that is a sign. It's a sign for us to indicate, like, wait, how much do we actually have on this earth? Like, what are we doing here? We don't spend, because the narrative in your world, as you've been like kind of absorbing it over the past 17, 18, 20 years of your lives, has all been about you. Your desires, your future, your pursuits, your dreams, realizing them, pursuing them, accomplishing them, achieving them. But no one stopped to tell you, hey, be careful. It's all a mirage. I know it looks real, it feels real, but at a moment's notice, it's all over. And so you have to be thoughtful. Well, what is my purpose in this existence? Why am I here? What am I doing with my life? And that's a stark question that I don't think enough of us spend the time to ask. Because our pursuits are so intense, especially academic pursuits, especially career pursuits. It makes it as if you know how many times brothers, sisters have come to me in Ramadan and say, Shaykh, it's finals week. When it was finals week, it wasn't, alhamdulillah, it wasn't finals, so I didn't get this question this year. But it's finals, it's this or whatever, and I can't fast because if I fast, I don't know how I'm going to perform on my exam. I said, fail. Of course, first and foremost, you're not going to fail. You're going to be completely fine. Bilal Muhammad, the MMA fighter, spoke endlessly this year about how he fought in some of his big fights and he was completely fasting. The greatest victories in the history of Islam happened in the heart of the month of Ramadan, the Battle of Badr, the conquest of Mecca. All of that was when the companions were fasting, men and women. And then we come today and we're like, well, I have a final exam. Can I break my fast? Of course not. Of course you can't break your fast. For an exam? What do you think these exams mean? They don't define you. This is, by the way, everyone's making you feel or believe, that your future is being decided now. Nonsense. Your future's not being, you're going to forget about this in a few years. Trust me, I've been there, done that. You're done with college? Wallahi, I'm a little older than I look. I graduated Rutgers Newark in 2004. I have zero recollection of being on campus. Zero. I don't even remember going to campus and studying for exams. I have zero recollection of it. It doesn't define you. Does it look like I was in venture capital, I was in finance, but does it look I'm in finance anymore? No. So it didn't define my future. It was a point in my life that a sensible thing to do was to go to college. That's all it is. I had a young person come up to me when I was in Chicago recently, and they were like, 12 years between medical school and trying to get into like residencies and all these different programs, and they keep on failing. And they're like, I think it's my last chance to get in, and I don't know what I'm gonna do with my life if I'm not gonna be a doctor. I was like, huh? Why? Who cares? Like, but all these years and like this idea that I have myself as a doctor, I was like, just because you had an idea or a dream doesn't mean that it defines you, not even close. You think there's any distinction between a doctor and someone who's an Uber driver? Zero distinction. Zero. It's not as if like when you die and you go to your grave, they're like, oh, mashallah, it's tfaddal, doctor. That doesn't exist. You can't drive your S-Class. I don't know, most doctors drive S-Classes. But maybe the new generation, they'll, like, I don't know what you're going to drive. Tesla. G-Wagon. You don't drive your G-Wagon into your grave. Like, they don't, there's no premier, there's no first class, there's none of that. Bil'aks, in our tradition, those who are the most dignified are the akhfiya. Like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, akhfa fi khalqihi awliya'i. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala hid in His creation, His awliya. So this could be the most unassuming person, not identifiably known by anyone. No likes, no followers, no subscribers, not seen, not publicly validated, not socially affirmed. No, this person is not someone who talks about their agency and their selfhood and personhood. All this narrative stuff that is all about self-obsession, that's not the narrative that these people are living with. These are people who live in an absolute humble disposition of sami'na wa ata'na. Ya Rabbi, we hear and we obey. Ya Rabbi, you tell me who I need to be and I will be that. That's why I don't know why we have an identity crisis. There's no one here should have an identity crisis. I'll tell you, if you feel like you're lost, come to me. I will tell you you've been found. Right? I don't know what I'm going to do with my life. Every young person, existential crisis. What am I going to do with my life? I don't know what I'm going to be. What? Stop, relax. You're nothing. You're not special. You don't have to worry about. See, I told you, we're not special. Allah shut the mic. There we go. Back. You're not special. That's where I was. I'm not saying, it doesn't mean that any of you are losers, a'udhu billah. No one here should think of themselves as a failure or nothing or trash. Or don't speak of yourself in any self-deprecating terms. Because the human being is dignified. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala dignified the human being. When I say we're not special, I mean that this obsession that I have to be something in the public sphere, that I have to accomplish big things, like when you talk to people, I want to cure cancer. Who do you think? You're not Allah. Why would you ever say that? By the way, once you think that way, that's when you start to achieve and experience daunting anxiety and stress and depression, because you've placed yourself in a station that you don't belong. You're a humble servant. If you dispose yourself as a humble, subservient servant of Allah, who just seeks a pathway that is pleasing to Allah, you'll live a much more happier, relaxed, content, worthwhile existence. It doesn't mean that you can't be ambitious. Ambitiousness is one thing. But delusions of grandeur, the obsession that I have to be something in the public sphere, that I have to achieve something in the academic space, in the career space, that obsession is nothing other than the trick of the shaitan. 100%. Because I know way too many people at this point in my life who are thoroughly accomplished in the worldly sense, but are suffering in every possible category in their lives. Emotionally, psychologically, spiritually, socially, right? There's a lot of loneliness, a lot of depression, a lot of anxiety. And the problem is the lifestyles that we're leading, the path that we're following, the bill of goods that we've been sold that's no good, right? The bill of goods of be this unapologetic individual who lives for themselves. They say you have to be your unapologetic self, correct? Wrong. Say a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. You know who was his unapologetic self? Satan. Wallahi, I'm not saying that tongue in cheek. I mean it. He was so unapologetically himself that he was willing to go to battle with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No, you don't trust yourself. Never trust. You know, they say trust yourself. Rely on yourself. No, don't trust. Do you understand how problematic you and I ourselves are? The Prophet ﷺ says your greatest enemy is yourself. You know that. Our greatest enemy is ourselves. We don't trust ourselves. We trust Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Sprite says, obey your thirst. No, absolutely not. Say astaghfirullah al-azim. Muslims do not obey their thirst. They disobey their thirst. That's literally what Ramadan represented to us. A period of disobedience of our nafs, of ourselves, of our desires. Protecting ourselves from ourselves. That was the whole journey of Ramadan, by the way. And everyone towards the end of Ramadan feels either a little bit or a lot bit better. And that's because of the extent to which we eliminated ourselves and we centered Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Every Muslim, no matter how far or wide they may be, came a little bit closer. There was a little extra Quran, a little extra prayer. There was certainly a degree of fasting. All of that resulted in an increase in every aspect of your spiritual anatomy, in terms of your mind, your heart, your ruh, yourself. All of it was bettered because of our devotion, our commitment. That's why we have to learn to become genuine servants of Allah, who love to live in loving surrender. Prophet ﷺ, when he took Ibn Abbas behind him, when he was a young boy, and he said, Ya ghulam, inni u'allimuka kalimat. Oh young boy, I'm going to teach you some words. Ihfadillaha yahfadhk. Preserve and protect the rights of Allah in your life, and Allah will protect and preserve you. Ihfadillaha tajidhu tujahak. Protect and preserve Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in your life, and you'll find Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala right in front of you. إِذَا اسْتَعَنْتَ فَاسْتَعِنْ بِاللَّهِ. If you seek any aid or support, then you only seek that from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's why we are taught from the dua of the Prophet ﷺ, Allahumma la takilni ila nafsi tarfata ayn aw aqalla min dhalik. Ya Allah, do not relinquish me to myself for the blink of an eye or even less than that. We don't want to rely on ourselves even for the blink of an eye. As Muslims, what gives us strength, what gives us formidability, what makes us genuinely vibrant beings is strictly the extent to which we fully rely upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Once we start relying upon ourselves and making it about what we think and what we know, that's why I tell these people who come to ask me about breaking their fast for the exam, I was like, you're limiting your potential. You're assuming that it's about the basic, worldly equation that you know of, I need to sleep so I have energy in the morning. That's just the stuff of the experiential realm. But when you become a being that is living in loving surrender to the divine, you become a prophetic being, the equation shifts and changes. You don't need the same amount of sleep. You will actually find yourself thriving in the space of devotion. On all fronts. On the worldly fronts, and on the spiritual and psychological fronts. You'll find yourself thriving the extent to which you devote yourself to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not in the contrary. A lot of us are being made to assume that a life devoted to Allah compromises your potential welfare. Right? If you just be a little bit less Muslim or a lot bit less Muslim, you'll be better off. You'll have greater social viability, greater political viability, greater welfare. False. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is the one who makes people rise and He makes people fall. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala endows and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala strips. He gives dignity and He abases. قُلِ اللَّهُمَّ مَالِكَ الْمُلْكِ تُؤْتِي الْمُلْكَ مَنْ تَشَاءُ وَتَنْزِعُ الْمُلْكَ مِمَّنْ تَشَاءُ وَتُعِزُّ مَنْ تَشَاءُ وَتُذِلُّ مَنْ تَشَاءُ بِيَدِكَ الْخَيْرُ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is the King of Kings. And He gives sovereignty to whom He wills, and He strips it from whom He wills. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can make people, one day, they're the haves. The next day, have-nots. Very feasible, very doable. We see it every single day of our lives. By the way, all of us, look at the way the rest of the world functions. Right? Why do you think that we're going to suddenly continue to have this largesse and this grandioseness if we're not humble? If we're not careful? We can all lose this in a second. Our nice, comfortable suburban homes can be gone. All of it. We've seen plenty of human beings on this earth go from having a lot to having nothing. And that's a sign from Allah. Look at what the reality of COVID did. I'm not getting into the politics of COVID. I'm just talking about the reality of it as it transpired. Did it not unend all of civilization? And this is what? This was just the reality of one small, microbial reality from the divine. Nothing. But it completely unended the human condition. That's why the relationship we have between us and Allah is one of qabdah. Scholars call it ta'alluq al-qabdah. We are in the constriction of Allah. He alters us as He sees fit. يُقَلِّبُنَا كَيْفَ يَشَاءُ. So we have to be very careful for a second to assume, I got this. I'm gonna make sure I'm taken care of. I'm gonna compromise here, shift there, change this, secure this, make investments, get money. Well, all that can wither away into nothingness. You can have all the sense of security that you want because you got a formidable degree, you have some income, you have some money in the bank, you have a good solid job, and then it can all go. And trust me, I've seen plenty of people of wealth become people in need. Right? When I was living in Egypt, in my years of study, and the Syrian conflict, the reality of Syria happened, all of the people that were flooding into Egypt and the surrounding countries were the people who initially had means. The year 1, year 2s of those who were coming in 2010, 2011. They had means. And they would sit with us, and they would say, نَحْنُ أَغْنِيَاء فِي بِلَادِنَا. We're wealthy in our countries. Like, don't think we're poor. But subhanAllah, suddenly, someone who had multiple businesses, many homes, many apartments, so many investments, is sitting in Egypt looking for some basic handouts. Subhanallah. So brothers and sisters, don't ever think that it's outside of the will of Allah. That's why we're told, لا تكلني إلى نفسي طرفة عين أو أقل من ذلك. Ya Allah, don't let me rely on myself for the blink of an eye or even less than that. I can't function without you, Allah. I can't breathe without you. I can't taste without you. I can't feel without you. Nothing without Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the Prophet ﷺ tells Al-Abbas, he says, فَإِذَا اسْتَعَنْتَ فَاسْتَعِنْ بِاللَّهِ. Going back to the hadith, if you seek aid and support, then you seek it from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And then he says, very emphatically, وَعْلَمْ لَوْ أَنَّ الْأُمَّةَ اجْتَمَعَتْ عَلَىٰ أَنْ يَنْفَعُوكَ بِشَيْءٍ لَمْ يَنْفَعُوكَ إِلَّا بِشَيْءٍ قَدْ كَتَبَهُ اللَّهُ لَكَ. And know, if the entirety of humanity tries to coalesce together to bring you an ounce of benefit, they can bring you nothing except that which Allah has prescribed for you. Nothing. Imagine that. I believe that this truth is the truth that attracted people to the house of Allah this month. Because all of us, we have these radars within us. We're just seeking. When you feel sad, when you feel alone, when you feel lost, when you feel confused, that's nothing other than your spiritual anatomy saying, I need, I desire, I yearn for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wallahi al-azim. It's the only thing that's happening. Even if it's attached to some exam, or getting into some program. Those are just superficial representations. But do you think that Allah endowed you with the capacity to feel and have concerns and to think, to cognate and to metacognate? You can think and you can think about thoughts. And you can dream and you can imagine. Look at Harry Potter, and Lord of the Rings. That's nothing than the power of the simple human imaginative capacity. We have these intellects and these strong spirits, this burning desire and feeling. And you think all of that is just for a career? Check yourself before you wreck yourself, as they say. No, you have to check yourself very quickly. Check, because the problem is, right now, the way that, because young people tell me this all the time, they'll say, well, this is all I've been told. All I've been told is focus on your studies. All I've been told is make sure you get into this career. The pressure from my parents, the pressure from my aunts and uncles, the pressure from society. The narrative has been, I have to be X. And so it becomes the world for you. But the problem is, and the part of the story that those same people are not telling you, is that it doesn't get better on the other side. It doesn't. You don't get it, you don't get the Tesla or the G-Wagon and then things shift and change. Absolutely not. You don't get the nice home, you don't get the beautiful family, and then suddenly you have it. The Prophet ﷺ, he was someone who had it all in the worldly sense. All of it. In his 30s, he was married to the best possible woman of Mecca, Lady Khadija. He had amazing children. He was financially in his best circumstances. He had the greatest amount of social capital, political capital. He was like the golden boy of Mecca, if you will. On every front, he was revered. But we know from the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ that he was not settled. Allah says, وَوَجَدَكَ ضَالًّا فَهَدَى. Did we not find you seeking, so we guided you, Ya Muhammad? Is not the state that we found you in. Why was he going to the cave of Hira? What was he seeking? He was seeking understanding. He wanted clarity. It can't be just about this. There's something clearly more. Why? Because who made him unsettled in his heart? Who made the Prophet ﷺ unsettled? Who do you think? It's obvious, say it. Allah made him unsettled. Because that spirit inside of you that allows you to be a being, that is a breath from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, placed within you. So that spirit is always going to yearn for Allah. Whether you're cognizant or not, sometimes you experience the effects of it. So when you hurt, you feel a qabda, you feel some constriction in your heart, tight-chested, you feel alone, you feel this. All of those manifestations, they're just the effects of your soul thirsting, yearning for its source, because it's a divine breath breathed into us. So the Prophet ﷺ, that was his soul, the divine breath saying, I need Allah, I need Allah, I need Allah. Family, not enough. Job, not enough. Work, not enough. Relationships, not enough. Notoriety, not enough. None of it does it. None of it. Why do you think, Masakin, may Allah grant them hidayah, all these vloggers and influencers, why do they always come to a point in their careers where they have to talk about their mental health crisis? And I'm not shaming or mocking. I'm identifying that no matter how much they've been given from the worldly realm, they will be the first ones to say it means nothing. Right? Every time someone kills themselves, and the degree of suicidal ideation is real in our society, amongst the non-Muslim and the Muslim community. It's not as if it's unique. It's a reality of the developed world. The developed world. We're undeveloped. We're developed in certain materialistic senses, but we're thoroughly undeveloped in the spiritual, psychological realm. We're not doing well. There's too much anxiety, suffering, and pain that results in suicide. Right? And I myself know 5 young Muslims, unfortunately, who've committed suicide. I know these firsthand. I'm not talking about like stuff I've read about. People I've dealt with firsthand. And each of them have a similar narrative of being suffocated by the dunya, being controlled by what they should have been, what their life could have been, the mistake that they made, that they assume now defines their future. So like, what's the point of living? I can never show my face again. One young man, may Allah have mercy on him, he could felt that the sin that he committed made it that, khalas, his life is over, so he should end it. And he literally told his mother in the suicide note, he told her, don't worry, Mom, it's not because you're a bad mother that this happened, it's because I'm just a bad deed like the son of Noah. SubhanAllah, that's what he said in the suicide note. And he started the suicide note with Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. And he wrote reference to ayat of the Quran. It breaks my heart. Wallahi al-Azim, it breaks my soul to see a young man to assume that this is the only outlet. No, that this is where we have been deceived by the trappings of this dunya. We don't realize that it's all just a mirage. It looks nice, it feels nice, it looks big, it looks substantial. But there's a far deeper and more profound reality that Islam liberates us. That's why when the Prophet ﷺ received revelation, he was liberated, free. Allah tells him, Alam nashrah laka sadrak. Did we not expand your chest? وَوَضَعْنَا عَنْكَ وِزْرَكَ. And we removed the burden that was on you. الَّذِي أَنْقَضَ ظَهْرَكَ. That was about to break your back. What was the burden that was going to break the Prophet ﷺ's back? Was it not being socially celebrated? Was it not having the likes and the followers and the subscribers and the money and his dream girl? It had nothing to do with that. What was that which was going to break the back of the Prophet ﷺ? It was not knowing. It was wanting guidance, wanting clarity. It was wanting to know, what's my purpose on this life, on this existence? That's why when the Prophet ﷺ received revelation, the amazing thing about this is that when he received revelation and he brought this call to the people, what happened? Instantaneously, rejection. He started to lose, all his stocks started to decrease. Financially, decrease. Socially, decrease. Politically, decrease. All of it. Imagine just plummeting. Like, you know, when the markets go haywire and all the stocks start plummeting, all his stocks start plummeting except one. One was thriving. One was breaking all of the potential parameters and the dimensions of existence. And that is his connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it culminated in this majestic moment of the Mi'raj, of him being in the most intimate company to the divine. Not even could the angels be where the Prophet ﷺ was with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Do you think when he was quote unquote up there, completely disconnected from this creation, do you think he was thinking 1 minute about anything happening in the world? Not even a second. He was thinking, he was fully immersed in the reality of the divine. Because he lived in loving surrender of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Had nothing to do with the trappings of the dunya. That's what we have to be careful. Because I was given the topic as trust in Allah. The reason I'm saying everything I'm saying is because we've put way too much capital, way too much trust in our desires, in ourselves, our dreams, our pursuits, the idea of security that we get from employment, from careers, from getting into certain programs. That is absolutely not where your existential welfare lies. I'm not saying be a bum, okay? Let's be clear. Yes, you should have purpose. But your purpose, the project, is not you. It's for Allah. You live for Allah, not for yourself. You don't follow your desires. You don't have it your way. Burger King? You don't have it your way. Most of you halali, so you're not familiar with Burger King. Alhamdulillah, right? No? You don't have it your way. You have it Allah's way. That's the only reality we have. Ya Rabbi sami'na wa ata'na. We hear and you obey. You tell us what you want, Ya Allah, and we'll obey that reality. So to conclude the hadith, and then we'll open up inshallah for some questions. The Prophet ﷺ says, wa'alam, and know that if the entirety of the ummah, the entirety of reality, of humanity, were to gather together to harm you in any way, they cannot harm you except for that which Allah has prescribed for you to be harmed with. That's why we do not fear the reproach of those who reproach us. We live our Islam as humble servants of Allah, followers of the Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the one who was sent to us as a source of mercy and guide, a one who is Siraj Munir, a well-lit lamp of guidance. We follow him sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and we let things fall where they fall. If people are happy with our Islam, alhamdulillah. If they are not happy, may Allah guide their hearts. But it's inconsequential to the believer. We don't bend to the will of anyone but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because you bend to someone's will now. You bend to the status quo of society now. You bend to the threat of not conforming now because your career depends on it, or because the administrations assert this. You do that now, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to tell you on the day of judgment, well, let them come and defend you now. Let those that we surrender to in the dunya come and advocate for you now. And that's a really concerning reality that we're not very conscious of. So brothers and sisters, if we have any hope, and I'll close before Q&A with this, if we have any hope in genuinely thriving in this dunya, because you don't have to just exist in this world. A lot of people, they're like the Walking Dead, zombie apocalypse. People are just kind of drudging through life, just getting through the next phase. Let me just get through this to get to whatever is next. You get to whatever is next, you're like, all right, just let me get through this and then I'll get to what's next. And people are just existing in this weird, it's as if you're walking through sludge. You don't have to actually exist this way. You can thrive in this dunya. You can live a very upbeat, fully spirited existence where your heart and your soul are soaring every single day in the heavens. You're living in the ghaibi realm. You're existing in the unseen realm. Wallahi, you can. You may be physically here, but your spirit is in the samawat, in the heavens. The angels are celebrating your spirit. Why? It's all a direct function, for you mathematicians and physicists, it's all a function of what? It's all a function of how much Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is embedded in your identity, in your existence. Prophet ﷺ says, "Man tawada'a lillahi hakadha," and he motioned this way. Those who humble themselves to Allah this way, they lower themselves to Allah this way, رَفَعَهُ اللَّهُ هَكَذَا, Allah elevates you this way. I believe that as Muslimin, and if this Ramadan was an indication of anything, all these young people clamoring to be in the masjid, all these people coming in droves into Islam, if this is an indication of anything, this is an indication, bi'idhnillah, by the permission of Allah, of a profound spiritual awakening. It is an indication that the souls of the human beings, within our community and without, are thirsting for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The alternative, the ideologies, the isms, the philosophies that have governed the decisions, the orientations, the outlook of humanity has not been faring well for us. All these man-made ideologies have not bettered the human condition. They simply have not. As Muslimin, we have to be representatives of this prophetic reality. That's why we seek and beg that Allah, Allahumma hdina wahdi bina waj'alna sababan liman ihtada. Allah guide us and guide through us and allow us to be a cause of guidance for others. We want to be agents, not the bad agents. We want to be agents of mercy, agents of light, agents of compassion and beauty, agents of mahabba, true love. This world is in dire need of real mahabba, true love. And true love is not just getting whatever you want. No, true love is all about the love of the divine. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He is love. He is al-wadud. And He sent us Habibullah, the beloved of Allah. Al-Habib sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And you want to experience real love, earth-shattering love, the love of the companions that they had for the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam, then you taste the love of Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam. It shifts your entire reality. Everything pales in comparison. Who cares about that guy or that girl you've been texting on your phone? Hey, how are you? You know, all that stuff. All that pales in nothing. It becomes like, what am I doing? I want Allah. Why do we seek out other people? Because we want a taste. Give me a taste of love. Of course, may Allah bless you all with beautiful relationships that are halal. Beautiful ones. Full of that, give you goodness in this life. But you want to be nourished in the depth of your soul. That even if your relationship sours a little bit, or the challenge that you have with your parent or your children sour a little bit, but you continue to thrive, have a robust and meaningful relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So may Allah make us true lovers of His, true lovers of the Messenger Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to live upright lifestyles serving the cause of La ilaha illallah Muhammadun Rasulullah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala shower us with His grace and His blessings, and may we have hearts that are fully connected to Him, fully connected to His revelation, fully connected to the walking Quran Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, fully and truly reliant upon Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, never reliant upon ourselves, never reliant upon what's popular in the public sphere, only have one central north star, and that is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Barakallahu feekum wa jazakumullah khair. Inshallah, if there's any questions, we'll take them.
Yeah, inshallah, we have time for a few questions, so if anybody has any questions, you can just stand up and shout your question. Anybody got any questions?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
First of all, that's a little bit for your beautiful reminder.
Yeah.
I think it benefits everyone kind of just to reset their personal life again.
Ya Rab, Ya Rab.
But I wanted to ask, how do you recognize when your nafs is kind of tricking you to believe that you're doing something for the sake of Allah, but it's actually for yourself?
That's a very good question. The sister's asking, how do I recognize if my nafs is tricking me into assuming or thinking that I'm doing something for the sake of Allah, or that it's something just for myself? That's a very good question, because the most common narrative I hear in the Muslim community is the following. Yeah, I'm doing all this for the sake of Allah. But that's a little too convenient. How is it that for the sake of Allah is literally like curated to your exact likes and desires. So for the sake of Allah, for that statement to mean something and to have substance, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has to be a part of the equation at every juncture. It can't be that I carved out this path for myself in life and then I'm trying to grandfather Allah into the equation. And say, no blasphemy intended by that statement. But meaning that I'm trying to say now, after I've planned out all this stuff that I'm going to do with my life, this is for the sake of Allah, of course. Like, I know how many people are going to become millionaires for the sake of Allah? I can tell you, everyone. These guys, inshallah, I'm going to make a lot of money for the sake of Allah. Oh, really? And let me guess, you're going to spend it all for the sake of Allah? Yeah, of course. No, you're not. Oh, Shaykh, how can you say that? You don't know. You don't know how sincere I am. You know why? I'm going to work off of data and trends. Do you know how many wealthy people we have in the American Muslim community? A lot. We are an obscenely wealthy community. We're not average wealth. We are above average wealth. Our disposable income is northwards of $300 billion. We have the equivalent of the GDP of a mid-sized country in terms of disposable income. We have a lot of wealthy Muslims. Do you think that's translating into a robust Muslim da'wah institutional scene? No. Because in reality, the pursuit of that wealth was for the wealth. If you want to know whether or not, because see, okay, let's say everyone here is going to pursue wealth. What percentage of this room are going to be wealthy people? In this sense. In terms of the wealth of the soul, everyone has access to that. But in terms of material wealth, it's always going to be a percentage of the community that has material wealth. It's not about wealth. Why does every single Muslim assume that the victory will be brought to Islam when we have wealth, when we have power, when we are validated in the political space? Okay, we have been so thoroughly tokenized at this point. Oh, you want a magazine cover? Here. And then everyone's like, oh yeah, we got a magazine cover. So what did that translate into? Into the depth of our theology, into the depth of our spirituality. I taught for 5 years at Harvard campus when I was living in Boston, at the Divinity School. The project of the Harvard Divinity School, and if they're listening, I'll advise them once again, lillah, although I'm not there anymore. But it's simple, to secularize religion. To strip religion of any of its relationship to the divine, any relationship to the sacred, and turn religion into a nice little cultural cute practice. So Ramadan is about the nice nights where you eat and hang out with your friends. That's Ramadan. Ramadan is like a spiritual revolution. What are you talking about? Ramadan is everything about surrendering to the divine. It's preferring the divine over one's needs in terms of food and drink and desires. But you go into our spaces now, we've been stripped. So what I'm talking about is the fact that we cannot assume that we're living lives or lifestyles that are really informed by Allah. Because if that's the case, then the question a priori, right, for you philosophers out there, at the outset, the question is going to be, Ya Allah, what's pleasing to you? What do you want me to do? Not, Ya Allah, I'm doing this. Go ahead, you make sure you got my back. Because if people come in Ramadan, they're leading a lifestyle that's fully theirs, as they want it, and then they go to Allah, hey Allah, I need to pass this exam. I really want to marry this person. Give me the bump, give me the divine bump. I'm going to Allah for support now, but I never included Allah from the get-go. I didn't ask Allah His opinion. Say, Ya Allah, what do you think I should be doing with my life? What is a good purpose for me in existence? So we've been made to assume, oh, you can be anything you want in life, correct? You can do anything you want. That's a falsity, right? No, we have to, as Muslimin, dispose ourselves from the get-go in a manner that says, Ya Allah, in the beginning, I asked you, what do you want me to do? Because if I'm sincere in terms of doing for the sake of Allah, that means that a lot of people have to shift course in their lives. Maybe walk away from this, step down from that, move from this, shift careers completely, right? And say, you know what, I'm not going to go down this path. I'm going to go down a very different path if I really am doing for the sake of Allah. But if I want to know sincerely, I'll see how much does my nafs really want this, myself. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has been very explicit about what He expects of us. So how much does my lifestyle conform to that? That's the litmus test. Wallahu a'lam. Any other questions? Yes, brother in the hoodie.
Assalamu Alaikum.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullah.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, alhamdulillah. So the question I wanted to ask was, how can we learn to sacrifice our desires and our wants when deep down we enjoy these desires and we don't want to abandon them?
How do I learn to sacrifice my wants and desires where deep down I don't want to?
Yeah.
Is that what you said?
Yes.
I mean, that is, you know, the J word. Can we say the J word on Rutgers campus? Or are we gonna get you in trouble or something? I'm joking. I don't fear anyone. They can. I've been plenty canceled. Don't worry. That is our jihad. That is jihad, by the way. A'zamul jihad. Right. That's the J word, by the way. I wasn't talking about weed. Was that what they're talking about? No. I was talking about jihad, not marijuana. Although the parking lot that we parked in, we came out of the guy's Ibrahim's car, and I was like, I got a little dizzy from what was happening. May Allah protect you guys. I don't know what's happening here. I'm a little bit nervous because, you know, I feel like when I was on college campus is different from today. You know, same kind of things, but you guys had just much more. Anyway, may Allah protect. Anyway, going back to what I was saying. The jihad, which is the virtuous struggle, that struggle that the believer says, Ya Rabbi, I'm going to proactively struggle for your sake. I'm going to prioritize your wants, your desires, your interests, your commands over mine. That is your virtuous struggle. By the way, throughout human history, not just the Islamic civilization, Western civilization, Eastern civilizations, all of the major religions of the world, they always throughout history found tremendous value the extent to which you can dominate yourself, i.e. the whole narrative of mind over matter, correct? That's always been a celebrated concept. That's why they call people in historicals high-minded. It's the extent to which you're able to apply your mind to overcome your wants and desires. So the battle is proactive and it's real. That's why the mihrab, what is the mihrab? That place in the front of the masjid, correct? Do you know what mihrab means in the little Arabic language? It means mawtinul harb, the place of war. Because when you're in salah, you're at war. What are you at war with? You think the shaitan wants you to pray? Of course not. So you have to battle the shaitan to pray. Do you think your desires, your nafs wants you to pray? Of course not. You're sitting on your couch, you're watching your 17th episode of I don't know what we've been watching, and then you're like, I gotta get up and pray. Your nafs has zero interest in getting up salah. What makes you get up for prayer? What compels you to do that? It's the drive to give Allah precedence over myself. I'm going to tell you, brother, if you want to know the mechanism to do this, go back to Ramadan. The entire story of Ramadan is a story of individuals who say, Ya Rabbi, this moment comes in, the first day of Ramadan, I now surrender all of my needs, wants, and desires for you. We will be so militant about our siyam that if, let's say I go into the bathroom and I wash my mouth, I'm making wudu, we'll sit there and do this spit motion just to get all the water out of our mouth, correct? You'll even sometimes take a napkin or a towel and dab it just to make sure that you don't have a drop of water in your mouth. Isn't that amazing? What made you shift from being someone who eats and drinks whenever you want, we're just grazing like cattle, then suddenly, if I have a drop of water in my mouth, I am so nervous about swallowing it that I will spit extra and even dab my tongue to make sure that no water goes down my system. Isn't that a sign from the signs of Allah? That is a capacity that all of us are endowed with. We have the ability to make serious, difficult choices. That's a challenging choice to make. I'm sure you all spoke to your non-Muslim classmates about fasting, right? What does everyone say? What is the fast? Wait, you're doing this from this time to this time, and then the first response is say, not even a sip? Right? That's what everyone says. Not even a sip of water? You say, not even a sip. What's their immediate response? I could never do that. That's impossible. And we giggle. We giggle. Why do we giggle? Because we have kids as young as 5, 6, and 7 fasting. Not because they have to, because they're inspired to want to be like the grown-ups, to be like their older siblings. You know, I want to fast too. Kids out of FOMO, not of devotion to Allah, pure FOMO. I want to be like you guys. And even when it comes to the breaking the fast, they start like acting as if they were fasting. Yeah, I was fasting all day, definitely. And they just finished their meal like an hour ago. But they want to be a part of the community. The amazing thing is what we tell our neighbors and our friends and our family and our community members and our classmates and our co-workers, we tell them, not only is this doable, it's very doable. Quite the contrary. The CBP officer, my close friends, Customs and Border Patrol, we've developed a nice relationship over the years. They've taken a liking to me. They like to stop me a lot. Hey, how are you doing? What are you doing? So on the way back from Canada, the guy goes to me, he's like, what were you doing? And this is how I travel, by the way. I travel as Shaykh. While Shaykh, I travel as Shaykh. So he's like, so what were you doing in Canada? I was like, I had some speaking engagements. He's like, was it packed? A lot of people? I was like, oh, more than you can count. And I winked at him like, so many Muslims gathering in the mosque. So he was like, I was like, it's Ramadan, so we have, special. He said, oh yeah, that's right. It's going to end soon, right? I was like, yeah, it's going to end soon. Yeah, they do this like, whatever, build rapport kind of thing. So the guy, so then he was like, yeah, but I was told, I'd love to fast, but I was told that as a non-believer, this is the word he used, as a non-believer I can't fast. I was like, who told you that? I was like, where'd you read that? No. As a whatever you want, Muslim, non-Muslim, non-believer, I'll let you fast. Come with me, I'll show you how to fast. He's like, yeah, but I could never. And he picked up his 17-gallon jug of water, like the gym guys. He picked it up, he's like, I could never be without this. I was like, do you know that there are 1.8 billion Muslims who fast from all age groups, as young as 6 and 7, up until the age of 90? And they fast all day. And quite the contrary, they become, towards mid of Ramadan, your spirit is like thriving. And you feel very comfortable and capable. Even if you're tired, there's a difference between some exhaustion and tired, and there's a difference between you have a spirit that's thriving. And so, brother, the answer is all Ramadan. We have absolutely the ability. We just have to have the resolve and the choice to say, I can say no. Ramadan taught us that we can say no. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us the Fatiha. Any other questions? We'll end inshallah. Okay, well, I'm going to take this last question. We'll end. Yes, brother.
Would you say the fastest path?
What did he say?
Fastest path.
Would you say the fastest path to earn Allah's love is to send more salawat and Rasulullah and show more Muhammad to Rasulullah?
Barakallahu fi. That's a very good question. He's saying, is the fastest path to Allah our connection to the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, our love for him, sending salawat? There's absolutely no doubt that to fast track a rich and robust relationship with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you center the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam says, Wallahi, send salawat upon the Prophet. So I might come back. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. Let's all Rutgers, New Brunswick. Send salawat. Oh, there we go. We're back. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. See what you did? You sent salawat, the doors were open. The fast tracking, because the Prophet ﷺ said, none of you will be complete believers until I am more beloved to you than everything, than your family, yourself, your children, your parents, all things. So the Prophet ﷺ has to take precedence in our pursuits, in our lives. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who himself, Jalla fi ula, he says, إِنَّ اللَّهَ وَمَلَائِكَتَهُ يُصَلُّونَ عَلَى النَّبِيِّ يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا صَلُّوا عَلَيْهِ وَسَلِّمُوا تَسْلِيمًا. Allah and his angels, they are busy sending salawat upon the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu, O you who believe, Sallu alayhi wa sallimu taslima. That's us. These simple, humble, nothing servants on this earth. We are being told, join the symphony of salawat. Because there's a symphony of salawat happening in the celestial realm and on the earth. So we want to plug into that reality. So all of us say, Allahumma salli wa sallim ala Sayyidina Muhammad. Once you do that, your life shifts and changes drastically. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sends upon you 10 salawat. You say one, sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad, Allah does 10 for you as an individual. You send salawat upon the Prophet ﷺ, Allah suffices your needs. Allah forgives your sins. Allah opens up the doors of faraj. All bifadli salati ala nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And I'll close with this. And it's a beautiful hadith to close on. a man came to the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, said, Ya Rasulullah, mata sa'a? When is the hour? When is the day of judgment? And so the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam answered him by saying, with a question, وَمَا أَعْدَدْتَ لَهَا? And what have you prepared for it? He said, not much. Then he said, except that I love Allah and His Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said to him, Al-mar'u ma'a man ahab. The being will be with the one they love. So you want to fast track, as this dear brother, may Allah bless you for being inspired to ask such a question. You want to fast track your relationship with Allah? Then figure out how to have a rich and profound relationship with the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. One of my shuyukh, he told us a story of a person who he knew closely, that every night when he would come to go to bed, he would wear the best of his clothing, and he would put on itr, he would put on oils, and he would groom himself and then go to sleep. And they asked him, why do you do this? He said, because of the chance that perhaps I may be in the company of the Prophet ﷺ in my dreams. So I want to be in my best of states. Subhanallah, the more you send to the Prophet ﷺ in your life, the more Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala elevates your state. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us intimate and close company to the Prophet ﷺ in this life and the next. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be pleased with all of us. And may He inspire all of us to be true Muslimin. Those who live in loving surrender to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Barakallahu feekum. It's wallahi been an absolute pleasure to be with you. I wish this was a little bit more interactive, but I gauged the audience and I looked at the distance. I was like, this seems like a lecture audience. So I called an audible. But inshallah, I'll come back and we'll have more conversations. Barakallahu feekum. And hopefully, inshallah, you'll join us on May 26th with the Prophetic Living launch. Hopefully see you all there. There's literally like 200 or 300 seats left. So you better get with us, inshallah. Barakallahu feekum. Sallallahu alaihi wa sallam.
Assalamu Alaikum. Everybody, please.